Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suki Sodi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Talent Titans. Today I am bringing you Aimee Hagerty from EA Associates as part of our entrepreneurial series. Aimee, welcome.
Hi,
Thank you for joining us today.
nice to be here. Thanks.
So, who is Aimee?
Hi, I'm Aimee Hagerty. I sort of fell into recruitment about 15 years ago and set out to work in sort of generalized recruitment. And 8 years ago, set out on my own and started my own consultancy in life sciences recruitment, where we specialize in life sciences, mostly in pharmaceutical and biotech and healthcare across the US and Canada.
Amazing, amazing. So, one of the things I'm curious about is you position EA Associates as a consultancy rather than a traditional staffing agency. Can you break down what that actually means in practice?
Yeah,
How it
sure.
benefits your candidates and clients?
Absolutely. So in some cases, staffing agencies, provide only temp and contract workers on an as-needed basis. Others provide full-time and permanent placements, usually with an urgent request. But as consultants, we go way deeper. We're not only alleviating immediate recruitment issues, but we also create recruitment strategies.
Okay.
We help to devise talent acquisition planning, and this is all designed to build and grow a client's infrastructure and be able to find the very best talent out there for them.
Because not a lot of agencies, traditional recruitment agencies, do that true consultancy piece.
That's right.
How did you get into that?
I just think it's really important to be able to do that, to go deep with your candidates and your clients to really benefit both for a positive outcome, to get both the best outcome that they can. Our clients want the very top talent, and our candidates expect to be matched with positions that not only highlight their accomplishments, but also will further their career path.
Yeah, and I think the way you're doing it makes sense because you've got a seat at the table,
Yes. Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
you know
We're able to,
you know what's going on, the background noise. And when I say background noise, it's like okay, the people you're not actually talking to, but are also sharing their viewpoints on the hire. When you have a seat at the table, you hear that part.
yeah, yeah, you're able to really embed with your clients and your candidates both,
And
which is
how's it gone down with your clients?
it's been fantastic. I mean, the response rate has been amazing. I think clients appreciate that little extra effort that you put into really understanding their growing, changing, and shifting cultures. And it really, you're able to move projects along more quickly. That provides stability and alleviates worry, creates a higher retention rate.
Talk to me about that higher retention rate and how it leads to that.
I think when you're able to go more deeply, first of all, with your clients to understand what their pain points have been, to be able to help correct them, to understand what their company culture is, that's really vital in looking past technical proficiency, which I'll probably get to later.
Yeah.
But, beyond the technical proficiency, really into the depth, the soft skills, the intangibles that are needed to fit talent with culture.
Was it a hard thing getting your clients and helping them understand the difference? Did they just see you as
Yeah,
another traditional agency?
it was really, really difficult to do that. And in some cases, especially when you're sourcing a new business,
Yep.
it still remains a boundary. It really is, show us what you can do.
Yep.
Show us what you can do, and then we can have that conversation of more.
Wow. So how do you get around that? Or is it now that you've built the brand so people understand who they're dealing with?
I think the really crucial part is no matter what you're doing, is always deliver. Deliver, deliver, deliver. And be who you say you are. Do what you say you're going to do. Show up every single time.
And is that harder as a entrepreneur? And you're in a very competitive field, life sciences, right? And there's some big, amazing companies that deal with that. Do you find it's harder for you because you're in a niche? getting the clients initially to quote unquote give you time of day?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I know that in my industry and specifically within my business and within my network, we've been really lucky.
Uh-huh.
Majority of our business has really been from word of mouth and referral and experience. And I really think that's where, everybody has to start someplace,
Yep.
right? And so it literally is step by step, brick by brick, action by action, success by success, and multiple failures leading up to every success.
And you know what? I love that you said that because people look at founders, regardless of whatever industry they're in, right? And they're like, oh, but that's easy. Oh, look, but they don't see that. And I love the fact that you said brick by brick, multiple failures. We
Yes.
all have had multiple failures. That's the truth of the matter. It's
And many more to come,
absolutely, but it's
constantly.
what you do about those failures,
Yes,
right? It's like you're going to get knocked down. That is just part of being an entrepreneur, part of starting a business. Just don't stay down. Get
that's right.
back up,
Get up.
right? It's
Absolutely.
and maybe that's a mindset issue because a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also can be. I mean, it takes a lot to get back up
Oh, it does,
sometimes, but I think that's the drive,
and
right? And I
especially in our
can't
industry.
define what that is. It's just
But what no,
failure is not an option.
I get it. Failure's not an option, and I guess it's entrepreneurs. We live and breathe. It is our baby,
Yes,
right? And I have
yes,
no disrespect to people that are doing amazing jobs with large companies as employees, but
but it's
this
our
is our
baby.
baby. It is.
Yeah.
We don't look after this. There's nobody else. There's not an unlimited bank account. They can say, okay, don't feel like working. So then the rewards are great as well, right? But you're right. You've got to. It's those failures, and if you're learning from those failures,
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is you always have to be open to learning.
yeah,
You never assume that you know everything because there's always a lesson to be learned in everything that you do. And there's always going to be somebody else that's going to have a lot to offer you and a lot to say. So you always have to be listening.
100%. I want to switch to back to the life science space. It's highly specialized and it is constantly evolving, right? What are the key market shifts that you've observed recently, and how has EA Associates adapted to kind of like stay ahead of the game? And are there any particular trends or disruptions that small agencies should be watching for closely?
Yeah, good question. So, life sciences is booming, but right now, and I think we can all agree, the world is in tighter times,
Yep,
right? There's political unrest and economic and employment uncertainty.
yep,
Many companies are holding off on hiring external recruitment companies to save money. But most of the ops, at least within life sciences, specifically within pharma and biotech and healthcare, are much needed roles.
hmm
So the market becomes even more competitive. So having the awareness of the market around you is really, really imperative to success. And also, when faced with a bounty of candidates, the clients are looking past, and we talked about this earlier, they're looking past the technical proficiency and they're looking past the soft skills more towards the intangibles for cultural fit. It becomes even more vital. And these are where companies like ours in areas that we specialize in, like this is what we do best. And in terms of adapting, we have shifted more from a service provider
hmm
to a solution provider. So things like strategy development, we talk a lot with our clients, a lot. Like,
Okay.
sometimes I think our clients are like, oh my God, why are you calling again? But it's worth it,
Yep.
right? So we stay informed and we're always researching our industry. You also have to be prepared to pivot very quickly to the needs of your client because they change in shifting markets,
Okay.
right? So agency owners should always be watching, always be staying informed and connected with your network, and always be able to read the proverbial room. Maintain a presence, even when there are no roles to fill. So it goes back again to those touch points with your clients and your candidates.
You make a really great point there. So obvious, but people don't necessarily do that. Touch point. with your clients even when there's no roles and
Yeah.
business, right? Because and I think there's a number of different reasons. Part of it is mindset. You got nothing to give me, so why should I call you and bother you,
Yeah.
or why should I spend my time? Or it's like, okay, you don't need anything. I know you don't need anything, but all my energy and focus is going over here because I'm really, really busy there. And I get that, but you got to keep in touch with your existing client base because
Yeah.
when you're not looking after your clients, somebody else is,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? You want to be top of mind. And I'm not saying clients going to dump you at the first sign, oh, you didn't call me back. But the clients want that client. And it's just like you and I, right? We want to be dealing with people that care about us, not just when they need something from us.
Right. Absolutely.
So you talked about staying on top of your industry and how do you do that? Are you part of associations? What do you do?
Yeah, I think you need to do as much as you can. So in certain cases, there are associations that you can join, but also it just comes down to a lot of research. You want to be able to always research your industry. You want to know kind of what your key trends are. You want to talk, look at what your companies and companies like your clients are doing. You want to look at their competitors. You always want to be researching and reading and really having discussions in your network. You know, Conversation. We always talk about the art of conversation and how conversation, everything begins with a conversation. Pick up the phone, talk to people just about things. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? What did you hear today? You get a lot of information that way and staying current.
Why do you think people don't do that? And especially as an industry, why do you think people just don't talk and collaborate the way other industries do?
That's a really good question. I don't really have an answer.
Well,
I
that's
don't
honest.
I don't understand why. I mean, in the recruitment space, whether you're staffing, recruiting, doesn't matter. You are talking to and associating with people.
Yep.
It's all about the connection. That's where it starts. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you've gone out of your way to be doing that.
It is vital. It is a vital foundation, an underpinning to the foundation success of our business and to my business
I
for sure.
totally agree because I'm pivoting back to what you said earlier.
Sorry.
It's your industry, it's your business. You're doing your research, the learning part, right? You fall, you get back up. Mistakes happen. What did you learn from it? And when you're not quote unquote networking and talking to people in the industry, you're almost the blinkers go on because you're still doing things this way and the industry has evolved,
Yeah.
right? So, and
You really get left behind.
you do, you do.
And it shows in the work that you do and the way that you interact with people.
Well, think about it. Somebody, a client on one side has yourself with your processes and delivery. Then they have somebody who has not, quote unquote, got up to the modern times type of thing,
Mhm.
still doing it the old way. Clients instantly going to be like, hang on a second,
Yeah.
right? And even if your competitor is cheaper, the client's going to want this level of service anyhow,
Yeah.
right? Because even if they're selling on price. So that's a really interesting one. So let me move on. Agility is often the key differentiator, right, for smaller staffing firms,
Yep.
small, mid-sized, and again, that's true of any business. When you're competing against a larger player, can you share a time when being a boutique consultancy gave you that competitive advantage over a larger brand, and how do you maintain that level of responsiveness, beg your pardon, and flexibility as you're scaling?
I actually think that we have the advantage of agility over large agencies every single day.
Yep.
I can say that we have picked up at least 25% of our clients that were victims to larger companies. And I
Wow.
say victims because they were unable to provide timely updates, unable to shift focus when a search or project criteria changes, because it does often. Didn't spend enough time with the hiring managers to really find out exactly what was missing in previous successes so that they could actually circumvent potential issues and change that. and really not even able to launch a project as quickly and efficiently as you can, as we can, as a small agency. And then I really think the rest just really comes down to research and developing relationships. Like you, and again, what we talked about before, having conversations. I don't measure success by the amount of money that we bring in and the number in the bank account. I really measure success by the depth of connection with the people in my network, because that's where the
Wow.
power is, right?
Wow.
There are no shortcuts here. Do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work. Stay connected.
I love that. I love that message. Do the
Yeah.
work.
Do the work.
And again, that's true of anything, right? But even as a founder, I was talking to somebody preparing for the panel for the summit, and we were talking about sales, and he said exactly the same. He said every owner should be selling, maybe
Yeah.
not full time, but that keeps you up to date with changes, what clients are doing, right? Do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, maybe we're oversimplifying it, but that's literally what it is. Get
You
out
would
there, do the work, the results will come.
you would think that it's an oversimplification, but that is something that is often overlooked.
Yeah.
One of the first things that's overlooked and forgotten is, oh, I forgot to do the work.
But I think often when I'm talking to small agency owners or entrepreneurs, they get their business to stage and they're like, well, I don't want to do pound the pavements anymore. I don't want to be doing the sales part of it. And I
Yeah,
do understand that, because now they
yeah,
want to work on strategy, they want to work on this, they want to work on that, and they've got their stripes, right? So I do understand why a lot of them end up not selling anymore. But by the same token, you're not able to pivot fast enough, like COVID,
yeah.
right? Because you've lost that sort of like intimate connection with the clientele because someone else has that relationship.
Oh, yeah. Specifically over COVID.
Yeah. So, how much of your time would you say you spend in quote unquote sales mode?
I mean, I think it's the same thing. My answer is going to be the same when it comes to networking as well,
Yep.
right? Everything that you do, every time you open your mouth, every time you put yourself forward for someone else to see, make that connection, you're always selling, you're always networking. There is no such thing as a cold call. It's ingrained in you 24/7.
Yeah. And entrepreneur, you wake up to in the morning, you're like, oh,
Yes.
right? You
Yes.
do.
Yeah, you do.
And you're right. So, okay, let me pivot a little bit. I'm talking about growth. Every agency, big or small, has growing pains, right? But
Yes.
as a smaller agency, you're not privy to the marketing department, the this department, and things like that. So, it's growing pains, whether it's balancing um, client demand, scaling from an operational perspective, or even managing cash flow for that matter. What have been some of the biggest challenges you faced as a business owner in the life sciences space, and how have you managed to navigate them?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have? I mean, obviously, cash flow, that was the first thing. I think that's a problem for many businesses, especially small business owners, especially over COVID. So cash flow is always going to be an issue starting out. And we could spend an hour talking about that,
Yep.
but I think everybody understands, kind of the ups and downs and pitfalls with that. I think that creating a process and sticking to it is really, really vital.
Okay.
Vital, vital, vital. If you do not have a process, you will struggle until you do. So that's really, really
So,
crucial.
how did you create your processes?
Oh, failure, failure, failure.
Fair point. Honest. But it's true.
It is true. It was really through trial and error. It took a couple of years, to be perfectly honest.
Yep.
And even after coming from a background of thinking that, oh, I'm ready to go on my own and I have all these, all this knowledge and I think I really know, I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't know. And so, yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. And it took a couple of years to figure out what worked for us, and what works for us does not work for everybody.
Bingo.
Um,
But I think
yeah.
also when you're working for somebody else, you're almost removed, or you're aware, but it's not in your conscious awareness that, oh, well, there's a whole marketing department doing this over here, which
Yeah,
is helping with this. If I just go back to cash flow, well, there's an accounting and finance department. I don't have to worry about the process for
right.
raising an invoice, getting it paid, commissions, all of that stuff, right? Because somebody else took care of that. So you don't, again, to your point, you don't know what that process should be until you start doing it and you realize something's not working.
Yeah, yeah. It's really, really important, I think, especially in our industry, to have a really good back office setup that will help you. Because one of the biggest barriers for at least independent recruiters coming into the industry who really do have a lot to offer, they're really overwhelmed by lack of back office support.
Yeah, no,
So they really need to find it.
and
That's crucial.
we've gone through the same journey. In fact, we're revising one of our processes right now, and one of our US clients is the first to get that refined process. And I just happened to be talking or recording a podcast with him this morning, and he was amazed at the process and the results that it delivered and all of that great stuff. So I was like, okay. So I went back and I was like, guys, you're on the right track here.
Yeah.
Right. But by the same token, he could have also said to me, oh, not sure about this, not sure about this change you've made here. Right. Okay. So your processes have to evolve. As your
Yes.
business evolves, your processes
Yep.
have to evolve.
Yeah, they do.
Right. Because,
Which is another reason why, as an owner specifically, you need to stay in the know.
yeah, no, totally agree. So let's,
Yeah.
talking of changes and staying in the know, let's shift to technology.
Hmm.
Technology, AI is disrupting every industry, including ours, right? So anything from AI driven sourcing, automating all these candidate outbound emails and candidate engagement. How has EA Associates leveraged technology without losing that human touch that you're so passionate about in the recruitment space? And what's been your most impactful tech investment?
So, I mean, I think for us specifically, like we use AI as a tool for sourcing, but never as a decision maker.
Okay.
That's the first thing. So our outreach is always going to be targeted and intended and specific to each person. Yes, it's time consuming. Yes, it's probably slower, but we're small for a reason so that we can actually do that. That's why we're consultants. That's why we're SMEs in our field. So we can go deeper and spend that time. That's why, our clients don't call us to recruit 10 production
Yep.
workers in a day because that's just not what we do. So, we're hands on, with our clients and our candidates. And we make sure, again, that we keep those conversations going through every single experience. I also think it's really important that, you have a really good CRM and ATS. That is paramount.
Hmm.
But the real power lies in your own database and the ability to customize it to match your process. When your database and your process are aligned, that is the most impactful investment, along with LinkedIn. That can't be denied. LinkedIn
Yeah,
is a
we have this
vital
love
tool.
hate relationship with LinkedIn in
It
our
is. It
industry.
is a love hate relationship with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me just
But
pick
yeah,
up on what you said there. Your CRM ADS aligned with your
with your
strategy, yeah,
process.
your
Yep.
processes, sorry. What kind of customization are you talking about? Because customization is not cheap.
No, it's not. It's an investment for sure. It's not as expensive as it is, developing your own software.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Fair point.
Who has $50,000 to $75,000 or $100,000 to do that with?
Yeah.
But it is an investment, and there are times when you are going to have to make that investment in your own business to be able to further your business to where it needs to be. We talked earlier about the requirements in the marketplace to stay current, right? So you're going to want to do that. So it is an investment, but it's worth it. There are a lot of systems out there that are designed for large companies and large corporations, and
Hmm.
they have a lot of bells and whistles, and they do a lot, and they handle a lot of volume. But those things are really lost on the smaller agencies, and often those are the selling points that drive up the price
Yep.
of the systems, and you get swept away in that, and you don't need 50% of what they have,
Yeah.
right?
That you're right there because it's got all the bells and whistles. Um, what's excuse me, what stage did you realize that you need this customization? Was that the way you were always going to do it, or was there a tipping point, I guess, where you're like, oh, okay, I need to streamline these processes and my tech stack, and make sure it's all seamlessly working together?
Yeah, I'm probably a really good person to ask that question of, because I am not a tech person at all. And when I started my business, I was one of those people that thought, oh, analytics don't have a place. I don't need to pay attention to metrics,
Yep.
numbers. What are numbers? Psh, numbers, right? Turns out that's everything.
Yep.
Numbers and analytics and metrics are your very best friend. And you don't enter this business knowing exactly who you are, right? You learn who you are. It's an evolution of process. And so for us, it took about probably 3 years in to business to really understand the impact. And what happened was I was trying out a new system,
Uh-huh.
and I already had a large database. And we lost 50% of that database through migration
Wow.
because we just didn't do our research properly. And I thought, all right, enough is enough. This isn't going to happen again. It was a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of resource, a loss of revenue, loss of resources. So we decided, all right, enough is enough. We're going to make the investment, really research, pull in some experts to help us out. And that's what we did.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, it was really, really scary.
In our case, I'm really fortunate because I have somebody in my team, my ops guy, he knows how to do a lot of that customization with our
You're
ATS,
lucky.
right? So we've been really fortunate whereby I've not had to go and spend tens of thousands of dollars getting external people to come and do some of that
Yeah,
customization. But I'm lucky. I'm very aware. As I said, we're implementing some stuff right now, and so far I've it's not cost me anything,
yeah,
outside of obviously his time and what have you. And now we just had a meeting earlier, and he was like, okay, we need to get a subscription for this, and I was like, okay, fine, cool, let's do that. So it'll cost me, it'll be the subscription cost, but as we said earlier, customization is so expensive.
yeah. But there are some other alternatives out there that are not as expensive,
Yep.
So,
I
I
guess
mean, all
expensive
I
is
can,
relative, right?
exactly. Yeah, it is. And I would just suggest that, do the research and don't be afraid to ask for demo after demo after demo. And
Yep.
there are no stupid questions. Ask questions ad nauseum until you understand whether or not your needs are going to be met. It will save you a lot of time.
Yeah. I want to come back to relationships. You're
Yes.
definitely a relationship person. Okay. And having relationships absolutely sustains a business, right? There's no ifs and buts about that. You talked about building the relationships, getting out there, networking. Can you give us an example of the kind of strategies that you've deployed to ensure that you're truly building solid relationships with, let's say, your candidates, clients? You talked about your approach and things like that, but let's throw that to the other side of the fence with candidates. What are some of the strategies you've used?
I think, one of the interesting things and one of the things I love about our business is that it's the same. The relationship and the treatment and the approach is the same, whether it's for clients or candidates. It's all the same. When we started business, and they were developing our site, they said, do you want to play towards more candidate or more towards, clients? And we went, well, but we want both.
Yeah.
Like, they're the same. The way that we approach people and the way that we approach relationships is identical, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. And
Amazing.
so it comes back to what you were saying before. Deliver, deliver, deliver. Do what you're going to do. Do what you say. Do it, right? And continue to stay connected, continue to be current, and continue to have those conversations. And I can give you some examples. So
Hmm.
for both clients and candidates, again, during the pandemic, we stopped working.
Okay.
We stopped. And we reached out to each client and many of our candidates and asked them, what could we do? And we shifted ourselves from service provider to fellow survivor, right? We started
Oh,
treating people the way that we wanted to be treated. And the benefit of a small boutique is being able, again, to pivot quickly and to do that. People needed to know that we were here and they were not alone. And Consequently, in areas of life science, there were areas that exploded during the pandemic. And because we had reached out and were the first to talk to people to find out if they were okay, we were also able to put everybody's minds at ease. And clients and candidates came to us and said, we want to work with you. Like, what are the opportunities out there? We want to work with you.
Wow. Well,
And we did probably, I mean, the business that we did in the first 2.5 years of COVID was astronomical.
I
We were
think
very lucky.
I think you know, as the saying goes, it's not what you said, it's how you made somebody feel, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you made them feel seen and heard.
Yes.
And that's so important. That's amazing. So, what about, let's talk about company culture then. Definitely in your case, in the consultative part and the relationship part, right? That's our business. If we
Yeah.
need to really boil it down, right? That's our business. How do you attract and recruit people for, and obviously retain your internal staff in an industry that's has a high turnover, a high burnout rate? So how do you and then how do you instill your values into your team members?
I think it's an interesting question. It's a difficult question. I think for us, it really comes to be, in action as well as in word. We do some things within the community. I'm a huge champion of continuing education and mental health advocate.
Hmm.
So we have an employee reimbursement continuing education program where we will reimburse employees for courses and degrees that are obtained.
Uh-huh.
We have a commitment to mental health, and so we work with the community and with certain foundations and programs and with time and volunteer.
Hmm.
And we utilize the same strategies that we use for our clients inwardly in our company. I think that we're doing incredible things here. I always say that we're small, but we are mighty.
Yep.
And so we look for people who are as excited about what we're doing as we are.
Yep.
I look for people who are innovative and creative and self-directed. There's no micromanagement. Who has time to micromanage?
Hmm.
We don't have time. We're all adults.
Yep.
So, and we don't believe in timekeeping or mandatory desk time or number of calls, because I don't want to. Our company and the way that we interact with other people is really about forming the organic, natural relationship, right? And that being the underpinning of success, because people talk to you, they open up, they trust you, you become an advisor, you become, a confidant. And so I look for people that understand the importance of the work that we do. We're not just recruiters or staffers or headhunters or whatever you want to call yourself. We shape people's careers.
We do.
We shape company culture, and that is serious. So I look for people who understand that and espouse that very same ethos in what they do.
I love it.
Yeah,
Love it. That's amazing. So I know we're coming up to time, but one more question for you.
sure.
Crystal ball question time, right?
Oh, well,
What do you think the next 3, 4 years, especially in life sciences recruitment, is going to look like? Are there going to be any major challenges? And what does that recruitment landscape look like to you?
that's a good question. Yeah. So, I mean, I do think that there are going to be some challenges. I think one of the biggest ones that's going on right now and will continue for at least the next little while is going to be the struggle between the return to work and
Yep.
work from home. I think that's going to be a challenge for a while.
Hmm.
But life sciences, at least in general, is really moving toward a more personalized solution. And I think that this shift in approach will manifest in the type of people that they recruit.
Uh-huh.
It'll be even more important to move past technical proficiency and more towards passion and fit and the ability to think creatively and innovatively.
Yep.
This means that there's a more personalized approach, deeper human interaction, deeper conversations, and this is something that for people getting into recruitment or companies that are already in recruitment and talent acquisition that understand this personalized approach and the human touch will never be replaced. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine because life sciences and science and health and technology, it's booming
Yep.
right now, and they're going to be fine. We understand this at EA, And we're already thriving in this environment. And as long as we stay humble and grounded and doing the things that we're doing and listening and paying attention and pivoting and shifting, I think we're going to be just fine. And I'm excited for what the future has to hold. Yeah.
Wow, humble and grounded.
Yeah, humble and grounded. Never forget where you come from.
Yeah, I have a saying, never forget who you tread on the way up because you're passing them on the way down.
Absolutely.
Right? Aimee, this has been fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you.
It was
We could
great.
talk forever on this one. I'm excited to see your pearls of wisdom at the Canadian Staffing Summit, 3rd of
Oh, I can't
April.
wait.
Yep.
Can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear, and even listeners and attendees, just how they're going to resonate with your story as well. So, if somebody wants to reach out to you, whether it's a client, candidate, or even a fellow industry professional's like, oh, you said this, how should they get hold of you?
Yeah, so we're obviously on LinkedIn and my website, eaassoc.com. You can reach out to me directly, Aimee at eaassoc.com, and just reach out, call me. My number is listed. Love to have a conversation. Love to talk to you about anything that you want to talk about.
Fantastic.
And I really look forward to connecting to everybody at the summit.
Yep.
This year, it's going to be a fantastic event.
I can't wait for it. We've got, yeah, I'm really excited. Aimee, thank you ever so much for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you at the summit.
Absolutely, Suki. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye for
Take
now.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.